Well, what's up, you guys? Welcome to the Brotherhood Podcast, where transparency meets vulnerability. Today, I actually have the opportunity to talk to not only someone that is influential when it comes to creativity, but is one of my really close friends. And before we get into all the content today, I just want to kind of introduce who he is. He's an award-winning actor and director. He owns a media production company called Hightower Films. He works with some of the highest level entrepreneurs in the world to help build their companies to earn millions in revenue. And he is a mental health advocate for men. And he also is a believer in God and knows that he has been put on this earth to influence this earth and bless people with his heart. So without further ado, what is up?
What's up?
Dude, so good to have you on here, man.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, so a little bit about us, just before we get into anything. I actually met you through Instagram.
Social media,
yeah. You were actually working with some of my friends like Quinnell and different circles of dance.
All the dance crew.
Jeffrey and all these other people doing some creative stuff. And I was like, man, I'm going to see what this guy's about. So I DM'd you, the classic DM.
You swooped into the DMs.
I swooped into the DMs. And we actually got together for lunch about 3 years ago. It's about 3 years now.
Sushi.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. Tsunami.
Yep.
So good. And I really wasn't expecting, I don't know what I was expecting out of it, but I just felt kind of led to hit you up, and we met for lunch and really just kicked it off.
Yeah.
And really just started a friendship that's been going on for 3 years, and I believe that it'll continue to go on as we progress and everything. But today I really wanted to talk to you just about authenticity, because even in creativity and all these different things, and as you act and as you are this entrepreneur and you do all these different things in your life, I believe that our 3 years of friendship have really led to this true, authentic kind of nature and form. And so obviously when you first meet, you don't really talk, and you talk
Go
about,
right into the deep
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. It's all really, really shallow, but I believe in not being that type of person.
Yeah.
I've always believed in just remaining true to who I am and whatnot, and then just asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
So the really reason why this is the whole reason why I have this podcast, the Brotherhood Podcast, is because I believe that transparency and vulnerability is kind of this this taboo thing when it comes to men.
Yeah.
And especially like different men that are in sports and different, acting, and there's always this kind of nature to really not be authentic and true to who you are.
Try to find something else about yourself.
So I have just a couple questions to really just ask you to get this going.
Cool.
In your life, what do you strive to do to remain authentic?
I think when there actually for a long time, especially in the media world and business that I own, I learned that you had to showcase a little bit more than what you really had, type thing, just to get the audience or get the work or get the business, that type of thing, do the deal.
Yeah.
When I finally let that go is when I really learned a lot more about myself.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to putting in this work of like, all right, I got to showcase this. I got to do it this way.
Right.
I remember even when I was traveling a ton.
Yeah.
And granted, I was telling the truth, but I was extending the truth to showcase to people like, oh, I'm all over the world. I'm always even when I even did this when I was home.
Yeah.
I would literally never tell anybody that I came home to Utah or wherever, but I would keep posting.
Yeah.
Like if I was still out, around the world.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, let me know when you come back home and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll let you know. I never told them that I was there actually at home.
Yeah.
But, that wasn't showing my true my true self.
Yeah, for sure.
So the daily practice that I have to understand and do is when I wake up in the morning, I'm really concentrated on just me.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing.
Yeah.
That is a hard thing. That we tend to look outwardly, look in our social media to find validation, figure out what everybody's doing, but we really put ourselves at the back end of everything. So we sometimes don't even understand who we are,
Right.
the authenticity of who we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people even tell you like, hey, I love your heart, you know,
Yeah.
you're this type of person,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even believe that.
Yeah.
Because you just don't understand who you really are.
Right.
And
So
I was
let's talk
like
about, let's dive into that moment right there.
'Kay.
So when you say like when people can share vulnerable moments with you, or like say, hey man, I really love you, or I love your heart, or like have this kind of just this idea of like, okay, like expressing love towards a brother.
Yeah.
How have you in past years decided to open up your heart to certain people? Like, how do you, because I think the average man really struggles with this idea, especially like if you're in high school. Because I remember when I was in high school, like I had really close guy friends, right? We say, oh, these are my friends. These are the guy friends that I hang out with.
Yeah.
And really it's just a competitive testosterone,
Right.
just craziness. Like, so how have you continued to open up your heart, and who do you open up your heart to? Because I think oftentimes in our society, there are moments where men can open up their hearts, but then the man that they open up their hearts to, or the friend or whatever, coworker, even spouse or relationship, like they open up their heart in such a way, and then they kind of get pushed back from it, and then a wall comes up.
Yeah.
So I think in our friendship, even there in the beginning, there were walls on both sides where we didn't really express everything that we probably maybe should have, or talked about, you know, all those different things. And I think too, it comes over time. Right, there is this factor where like things come over time and things have to be played out, and I have to know that you're going to be consistent in my life and vice versa.
Right.
But for me, like, what are those, and for you, like, what are those things that you feel like, and how have you opened up your heart?
I think it's being super aware of who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously, with that authenticity, you plan out or figure out where you are in life and who you are in life. And so when you come into a space, a room, I always kind of think of like when you come into a room of people, whoever it is, some people adapt into that room, and some people stand out from that room.
Yeah.
And the people that stand out understand who they are, you know, so they stand a little different, they walk a little different.
Yeah.
So when I come into a room, and I've done both sides of this, so I'm not perfect at all with it, but I've done where I walk into a room and I just kind of like mingle into the feeling of the room.
Yeah.
And I'm not respecting myself enough to showcase who I am. But then I've done the other end where I've come into the room and I've lit up the room with myself and my heart and the things that I want to achieve in that room.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's just more so, one, being aware, and then two, really understanding like especially in our friendship, I think that yes, we needed the consistency to understand to each other, like, hey, we're going to be brothers.
Right.
But then also I feel like you got to let vulnerability take over, even though that's the hardest thing to do.
It's scary.
Yeah. I believe that with myself, with my heart, this is why I always talk about my heart will change the world, is that if I let my heart open, if I expose my heart to people, then in turn that helps them relax and feel comfortable around me, so that then they can express and do the things that they want, or say the things that they want. Yeah. So in that way, it's comforting. Maybe it is a standoffish thing, but for a lot of people, because they're not comfortable with who they are. Right. And like I even had a friend the other day. I could tell he was kind of going through something, and I didn't really know how to approach it, but I just kind of was like, what's going on? Yeah. Talk to me. Yeah. Type thing. And he finally opened up, and right at the end of it, I just didn't really know. I didn't want to like change anything or try to teach him anything or like, oh, you should do this or you should do that. Maybe this is, you could do this differently. I just put my hand on his shoulder. I was like, I love you, brother. Yeah. Like, I'm here. Yeah. So it's just like holding that space for those people gives people that opportunity to feel comfortable.
For sure. And I think too, oftentimes there's, in our society with men especially, we tend not to be vulnerable in the sense of we don't feel like we have any emotions.
Yeah. Well, I think one, we have that feeling of like, oh, we're men, we have to be rah, rah, rah and tough and
Let's go
not,
tackle each
yeah,
other.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also like you get taught from the early age, and this is where I've come to knowledge. When I was a kid, I was a crier. I was a baby.
Yeah.
And everybody would always kind of make fun of me and my family that I would cry. So subconsciously, that told me don't cry.
Yeah.
Be tough.
Right.
And then even like growing up through other things, my dad, not to say that my dad did this wrong,
Right.
but he was just teaching me how he was taught. And so he told me, be tough through things, whether it's football, sports, girls, all this stuff, be tough, be strong. And so I subconsciously told my brain, okay, be tough, don't cry. Wow. And so then, therefore, I told this story for so long until literally 3 years ago that I had to be that way. And hadn't cried in like 10 years, 12 years. And then I finally realized, like, no, I need to open up. I need to be me. Yeah. So then, therefore, like, I think I cried once after that time, like when I finally opened my heart up. And it was like a floodgate for a good 6 months. I was like crying every day.
Because you had suppressed it for so long. It's like, everything's just starting to come out.
So it helped out a lot. There's various things that led me to that point with, people that let me be vulnerable. Myself, letting myself be vulnerable. And then even acting. Acting literally took a lot of my emotion and put it at the surface. Yeah. And it helped out a ton.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Acting, but then let's talk about like what are the different masks that you in your past have chosen to put on? Meaning, I look at masks as walls. Yep. So like, what are the walls that you've really put up, just even in relationships? We can talk about just how you were married. Yep. At some point, and then there's a wall. Yep. That you put up. Like, let's talk about a little bit more of those type of walls where you felt like there are moments where you would let someone in, but then it's almost too deep that it hurts, so you put up another wall and you bury it even more. Oh, yeah. So what are some masks that you put up or walls that you've put up in the past that now you feel like you found healing from or that you're walking through currently in this season? Yeah. That I'm not enough. That anybody I love walks away from me. Wow. That nobody really cares about me, loves me. That I'll never find the love that I'm supposed to. Wow. Or I even put on the face of I'm just going to be the cool uncle for the rest of my life and be single. And so I think a lot of these masks and walls that I put up, one was from a lot of my struggle through divorce. Gotcha. Yeah. Because with her, she was like my first everything. And when I fell in love with her, everything was great and all this stuff happened. And then it was, I hated God after that fact because I felt that in some way should have been privileged to get what I wanted because I did what he told me to do, type thing, like going on a 2-year mission for the LDS church and, really diving myself into the gospel and into the teaching. And so when I came back, got married and then divorced, I was like, well, like that sucks. Yeah. Like you really ruined my life and I did everything that you wanted from me. Yeah. So then therefore I put up all these walls of, well, I'm never getting married again. Love never exists. People don't really want to stay around. Yeah. Even if they are telling the truth, I did not believe it at all. And so it was. So you associated basically with a lot of like getting the divorce. You associated that one with God really leaving you and abandoning you. And then you really put up another wall where you said, that I'll never be able to really love anybody else. So it was this moment in your life that you felt like, okay, kind of at a standstill. Yeah. As far as like, I just don't know. Like I've given what I felt like was everything. Yeah. I've given my whole soul to this person. I've dedicated my life to the church. Yeah. I've dedicated this, and then this is what's left. Yep. almost like, okay, like now how do I even regain this? So I'm just going to go off and almost rebel.
Oh yeah, pretty
So
much.
let's talk about the rebellion stage.
That was a lot.
Let's talk about the rebellion stage as far as like, because really I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's like you get hurt once and then that person can never, or like anybody that's even remotely similar can't even get a piece of your heart anymore because one person messed up.
Yeah, very true.
And I think oftentimes, like even in my own personal life, I was molested. Like there's so many things that happened to me as a child that were like imprints on me that I'm still working through today.
Oh yeah.
So there are still walls that are impacting my marriage currently. There's still so many things. So I feel like let's talk about the rebellion stage. And because I think that a lot of guys deal with it. We all have a rebellion stage to some way or another, whether that's drug use, alcohol, sex, porn addiction, anything like that. Let's talk about like even in those moments, maybe how God really worked out some things in your heart, even when you were rebelling.
Yeah.
Like what are some things that you learned from your rebellion that you're using now?
Well, a lot of the things that I rebelled probably shouldn't be said on this podcast, but there was a lot of things. Yes, I masked a lot of my emotions, and my vulnerability, my love, my care for people, all this stuff that I had gained. I stuffed it away and never looked at it again. Yeah. And so I started drinking, started having sex. Yeah. I had a 6-year span of this whole I don't give a f- attitude anymore. Yeah. And literally like girls coming in and out, drinking all the time, going to the clubs. And granted, I was in a really horrible place. Not only mentally, I was physically. I lost 30 pounds, and at that time, I was only like 160, so I dropped to 130. I looked horrible. Started having back pains, knee pains, and I'm an athletic kid, so for me to have those problems, it was bothering me. Right. And so and this is why I'm such a big advocate for mental health for men, because we do go through that type of stuff and we don't tell anybody. And I was that way. I still kind of struggle with that now, but we tend to say like we're good. Yeah. I'm good. I got this type thing, because we have to be the males. We have to be the strong ones, and we can't show that soft side. Yeah. Quote unquote can't. Right. But I did that, and I did it for many years, and so I think I know I blocked myself from the ability to hear what God was wanting me to do or learn. For sure. And so then when it kind of came to after this 6-7 year span of doing all this stuff, I tried. I think I tried to be vulnerable. I tried to open up to people, and then it happened again. Yeah. So I really dug it a lot deeper into well, I'm never gonna do this again, because it's not working. It's not working. But what I learned is, one, it's kind of like the whole, you put out whatever you want into the universe and it'll come back to you type thing. It's kind of a cliche thing. I don't really like saying it, but it's true. When you want something, whatever you say, you have to be very careful on what you say, because if you don't like a certain person because they're succeeding, or they have they love everybody or care for everybody, you're putting out in the universe that you don't want to be that person. So then the universe is not going to conspire in your favor. So with all that struggle that I went through, I realized that males need to open up. Yeah. And for sure. That's why we have males as the top percentage of suicide, depression, because we don't talk about it. Wow. And I went through some serious when my first divorce, where I quit all 3 of my jobs, moved back home, hated life, lost the weight, and did all those things. And I masked it, but then, then I had a decent job that I got, became a personal trainer, and I was still in that space of like, I'm not good, but I'm not going to say it. And so once I became more little more aware
Yeah.
of me,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be, I don't know, you kind of come to a point of just being tired, and then you have to make that decision. You just say, like, you can continue on this road of
Right.
pain and struggle and all these things and avoid and put up masks, put up walls,
Yep.
or you can say, you know, I'm going to try it this way.
Yeah.
And turn and say, I'm going to choose to care. I'm going to choose to love. I'm going to choose to have joy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's literally, you know, it's not easy, but it's that easy.
Yeah.
And so when we come to that fork in the road or that decision making, you got to realize, like, what has been serving you for the past, you know, for me, it was the 7 years. It served me ish. Well, at least I thought it was serving me,
Right.
because it helped me get through the pain, get me through the struggle.
Yeah.
So then, therefore, I was like, okay, I'm going to just keep doing this thing because it's helping me. But it wasn't really helping me.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
So now when I come to these problems or situations where I have to make that choice, I'm going to choose love, joy, all these different things, because my back past, my stories, my traumas that I've told myself for X amount of years, they served me, they helped me in the past, but they don't serve me now.
Wow.
And so I have to change things if I really want to change things. You can't just expect, like, one day, I'm going to do what, you know, you tell me, whether it's in a friendship or a relationship. You say that, you know, your spouse wants certain things from you because you're like, okay, I'll do that. But you never really act on it because you just kind of go back into that same pattern, the same story, all those things. But then when you are aware of it, you're like, okay. And it's not like you make the decision and it goes away.
Right.
You make the decision every single day to change your story and change that fork in the road.
Yeah.
And you're fighting with those things. And I believe that we have two different types of like ourselves. So one being kind of our inner child, the one that's hurt, the one that's gone through a lot of pain, and kind of is the realist in the group. And then there's another you in this, you know, story. And that's like the more spiritual one. That's you call it the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
And these two are talking to each other, trying to figure out what to do every day when you kind of come to that fork in the road. Do you want to live this way? Well, it served you, type thing, and it's done these things for you. It saved you. And these things are true. But also, it's like when you talk to your other spirit, the one that's really wanting you to progress and grow, it's like you need this. You need to change. Not even change, but just alter your past one step at a time, so then therefore you can become the person that we have in store for you. Because every time you choose the other path, you're not progressing at all. You're just numbing. You're just like surviving in that space. You're not thriving and pushing forward.
Yeah, I think that you said a statement there, just knowing, like, I think it's your false self and your true self.
Yeah.
Because really, the way that God intended us to be is to identify with our true self and the nature that He's created us to be. Circumstances in our life that are put on us cause us to not identify with our true self, and then we become false. And so for me, it's this thing of, okay, it comes down to really insecurity.
Absolutely.
It really comes down to, like, I'm being secure within myself in the false way. As opposed to, like, no, the Holy Spirit has allowed me, and the reason why I love Scripture, because it's so clear, it's so evident in different scriptures where it says, like, in Him I live and move, in Him I have this life, in Him. And so it's like that's why God is really wanting us to change from our false identity to our true identity. And I think that what you said there, I feel like there are a lot of adult men that are living in a 12-year-old body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you want to, like, I'm even dealing with some things that happened to me as a 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15-year-old.
Well, it's almost like, whatever trauma that was at that time, whether it was at 12 years old or at 21 or 22 for me, you almost stop progressing at that point. Yeah, you get older, but your mind is still at 12 years old or 22 because you're trying. It's almost like that one, it's the inner child trying to fight and like, yo, I need answers from this trauma situation and you're not giving it to me.
Right.
And especially when you mask it for so long, you're not figuring this out.
Right.
And that person, that inner child or, the good and bad, they need to figure that out. And so once you get to that point and don't fix it, that person stops.
Yeah.
And so then you never really progress. Yeah, we're just in a bigger body.
I also look at it too as like men were one of the hardest working species on the planet. Mm-hmm. But then really the hardest work that you could ever do is soul work.
Yep. Oh.
So we mask it in the form of outward exterior things, buildings, real estate, acting, careers, job, construction, football, all these different things. We mask it in that sense. But really the hardest work that you could ever do is soul work. Yeah. It is the most terrifying.
Yeah.
It is the most, it is the scariest thing. Like, I'm just like on my own just journey. And I've done soul work here and there, but like this year, 2021.
I feel like that's a lot of people this year for some, maybe it's from the pandemic or whatever.
But it's been, I think too, because the pandemic really showed us that we were you're isolated.
You need to sit with yourself.
You had to sit with yourself. Like you were, like after you're done hanging out with your kids, if you're a father, it's like, no, now I got to sit by myself. I got to really think about the things that, that are weighing me down and the pressure. And so I think over time, all of that kind of came to a culmination, especially in my own life. 2021 hit, and it's like, oh yeah, COVID's over, this is done, and pandemic's over. And it's like, no, like now I'm like what the heck?
It's like a gut check. You're like, oh.
But I find it really interesting that men, like, we work so hard and we're so competitive. So yeah, let's talk about the difference between competitiveness and comparison, because oftentimes I think that a lot of men in our society, we have this macho mentality. But I was literally thinking about this earlier today and yesterday as I was kind of preparing for this. It's like I would go, if I were to go to a trainer, I'd be like, hey, like I show him a picture of this person and I want my body to look like this. Right. And although that is good to have something to aspire to be and to accomplish, I think oftentimes it hinders our ability to be creative and to be authentic in the way that God has called us to be. So for you, like even with acting, because obviously when you act, you're playing somebody else. Yeah, absolutely. You are doing this. And those moments where there's power behind that. But maybe how do you, even in the acting world in your career, how do you shake those things off?
What's crazy is that I learned this in acting. Yes, I'm playing another character, and I need to dive into that story and the backstory and who this person is and why they do these things, even to the point of like how I move, how I look at people, how I talk. But you always find, and this is what one of my coaches always told me, he's like, find yourself within that character. And I put that in everything now. Wow. Even with business, because when I work with these high-level entrepreneurs, some of them I really enjoy how they talk, what type of businesses they're in, or how the relationships are going. So I don't want to like be them, because I don't really care about what they do. Yeah. And a lot of people kind of mess this up. They say like, well, this dude's successful, so I want to be doing exactly what he's doing. But then realizing that you're not respecting yourself to be you. You're just wanting to be him. And so when you get into that space, you're always kind of trying to reach for this thing that's never going to be there, because it's not you. It's not your path. It's not where God put you. And so when you decide that you want to find yourself within the character, you find something that you want to take from a person and say like, I love his relationship. How can I find a great relationship? What do they do in their relationship that makes it good
and healthy
and strong?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
physical body.
Yep.
Where can I? Because and then granted, I've been a trainer for 8-10 years, that type of thing in my past.
Yeah.
I did bodybuilding competitions, triathlons, all these things. So my body's been through ups and downs and different shapes and sizes. But my body's my body. I can show you a picture of what I want, but it's never going to be that type of unless you take crazy amount of steroids to get to that level.
Yeah.
But it's a fact of like, okay, I want this type of body. Where do I find myself in that?
Yeah.
And then that's where the authenticity comes in, because you're now searching within to find who you are.
So good.
Because once you look outward, you're and it sucks too, because I did this, and I just recently learned that if you're not authentic and not yourself and not feeling you and diving deep into this soul work, you're disrespecting yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not honoring the person that God gave you, and the one person that knows you best is you.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you mask it with all these different things. Oh, I need to do this. I need to talk like this. But for me, I realized, like, even one of my clients, he's a very raw type of guy. I wanted to portray that. Wow. So I did it. But then now I'm like, I'm really not that person. But how can I still impact people like he does, but in my way? I'm going to impact people, but with my heart. I don't have to scream and holler to impact people. And so you find you in the character. And then when you do the soul work, soul work is, I get goosebumps just even thinking about it. But soul work is you can do football, you can do the outward thing. That stuff is easy. Right. But soul work, when you sit with yourself, when you look at yourself in the mirror, not even just like look at yourself, like you're telling yourself every single thing that you've done wrong, that you've not told anybody, all the just pain and struggle and turmoil that you've been through, you're bringing that to the surface. All the stuff that you avoided for years because you don't want to feel the pain, or you don't want to feel the hurt, you don't want to feel those feelings. If you really bring those in, you tend to, it's very scary, but you tend to start to question those things, like why did I feel that way, or what do I need to do to not you really start to question these things, because you've held them for so long. Absolutely. But now it's like I can't live like this anymore. I can't be this way, because it's not giving me the opportunities or the blessings or the things that I want. Like for me, relationships. I've had this story in my head for years, like what we talked about at the very beginning. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think that nobody loved me. Nobody cared for me. Nobody really wanted to be with me. They all left me. So I was holding these stories and not looking at the actual problem. And so when you actually look at the problem, it's you. It's me.
I love this thing just came to me. The mirror is your greatest scar.
Yeah. And honestly, like I had a experience, this last week. Last week, where there's a mirror in my TV room area. Kind of sits on the floor, and I've been sitting on the couch, and it lit, like, perfect view for me to see my whole self. And that's been my mirror that I talk to. And finally, all through this struggle that I've been through the last few months, I looked at myself, and as I was regaining and doing my soul work, it was almost like it was this person, the inner child, the one that was going through so much pain, the one that was trying to teach me. He came out of that mirror and said, and he literally said to me, he was like, I've been trying to get a hold of you.
Wow.
And I just want to tell you how proud I am of you.
Yeah.
And I just started bawling because it was just like one of those moments of like, oh, I can let go of all this stuff because I only need me to be proud of me.
That's right.
I only need me to feel worthy enough, to feel good enough.
Yeah.
And I don't need exterior things. Like, it's great. It's a plus and the cherry on top. But when you finally do that soul work and really just like, I compare it to like sitting in a room in the dark by yourself, screaming bloody murder just to try to figure out what's going on. And when you do that, you find the blessing, you find the answer within the dark, you find the light within that dark, and then you can finally turn around and be like, I am this worthy person. I accept love in my life.
Yeah.
I can accept friendships, deeper connections.
Yeah.
Feeling blessed to be on this earth, seeing my body the way it is, and being honored to have this body. It's a crazy feeling, but it's so hard to do. Yeah. But when you do it, and when you see other people do it, you see this different light in them. You see you don't even have to talk about it.
Wow.
You kind of just like this wave of understanding that you are doing soul work.
That's
and
so good.
you're always going to be doing soul work. So it's always that thing. But I believe in that so much more now.
So good, man.
Because then you become your authentic, loving, whatever it is, whatever that person is. You don't have to just expose your heart or whatever, all this stuff.
Yep.
Whatever you are, you need to find that.
Right. And I on that note too, and we'll wrap up in a few minutes, but on that note, it's like, why would I want to be a cheap copy of someone else when God has called me to be original? And I think that this is why I feel like a lot of people really aren't successful. Because if you think about success and the people that are thriving and really successful, is that they have always stayed true to who they are.
Yeah.
Because nobody else wants another preacher. Like, I wouldn't want, another Adam to be exactly the replica of who you are. Like, I wouldn't want somebody to be the exact same person as me.
Yeah.
Like, what joy is that? Like, why would I want to be friends with somebody that's exactly like me?
Yeah.
There's no challenge there. There's no strive there. There's nothing that would really help and impact each other because we have different perspectives.
Yeah.
God created you with a totally different DNA than me. My skin is black. Your skin is white.
Wait, what?
But God created us that way. Like, God created us to think differently and all these different things. So it's like, for me, it's this idea. I feel like that people struggle, especially guys, brotherhood. We struggle because it's like we're always trying to copy somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that we end up spinning in circles.
Well, it's the story. It's the story that society, yourself, your parents have been telling you that you need to be this certain type of person. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. And it's comparison and competition. It's if you win and say you get, X amount of dollars or money, a part of me wants to be like, well, why didn't I get that?
Yeah.
And then you have to again choose, do I stick in that story or do I say like, no, my brother won.
Yeah.
And then that in turn,
Celebrate.
you celebrate and you win too.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's just that matter of making that choice. Yeah, we're going to be, as men, we're going to always have this struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But being very aware of that particular thing, when it comes to authenticity, when it comes to competitiveness or comparison, it really comes down to, if you know yourself enough, you don't need to be competitive. You don't need to walk around with something up your ass. You're you.
You're you. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm sure I'll have you on here again, and we'll talk about all the many things that we're going through as we're going through. And I just want everybody that's listening, this is literally just a conversation that we would normally just have anytime anytime we meet up for lunch or dinner or whatever. And so, just thank you just for joining me and being transparent and vulnerable in this moment. I know that it's not easy. It's not easy, especially in our world and where this can go to many different people. It's not easy as men to be vulnerable, but I do believe that that's where true authenticity takes place, is if we're willing to be vulnerable and open to our closest friends that are around us. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
All right.